Alright, today we're going to look at our last form of a linear equation, which is called point-slope form. We have dealt with slope-intercept form and standard form, and now we have point-slope form. Point-slope is in the form y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Now, m represents slope still, just like it did on slope-intercept, but then this x1 and this x1 and y1 represent a coordinate point. Okay, those represent a coordinate point. Your y and your x always remain y and x, but the ones with the little 1 below them, that just represents the y and x coordinate on a point. So we're going to use this point-slope form to graph. So we've graphed in all the other forms, so I'm going to show you how to graph using point-slope form. Here's some steps here. The first thing we want to do is identify the slope. Well, the form of the equation is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So the slope is going to be right before the parentheses on a point-slope form. So the slope in this case is 1/2. So we're going to write down 1/2 for the slope. Then we're going to identify a point. This is the part that always throws everybody a little bit. We want the x1 and the y1. Now, because of the minus signs in the formula, anytime you add a minus sign before a variable, it's going to change the sign of that number. So if we look in the x1's place, the x1 place is this number right here. This is your x1. But we actually don't want the minus sign. We want to take the opposite of that sign. This looks like a -2, but we actually on the point just want 2. You have to change the sign of the number. Okay, so in the x1 spot is -2, but we actually just want the 2. All right, same thing in the y1's place. y1 is going to be right here. y1 is a -5. So we want the opposite of a -5, which is a +5. So the point that we actually want is 2, 5. Even though it looks like -2, -5, we want to change those signs. Now, step 3 shows us how to graph. We're going to start with the point and then use the slope from that point. So our point we're going to start with, which is 2, 5. So we're going to, on our graph, put a point at 2, 5. All right, and then from 2, 5, we're going to use a slope of 1/2 to plot our point, or plot our line. So from this point here, we're going to go up 1 and right 2. Okay, up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2. We can also go down 1, left 2. All right, so from the point, we go ahead and do the rise over the run of 1/2. That's how you graph using point-slope form. Okay, so you first have to identify the slope, the point, then plot it on your graph. All right, we can also write an equation. Okay, we don't always just have to graph, but sometimes you'll be asked to actually write an equation. We want to write the equation of a line that has a slope of -3, passes through the point -1, 7. So they give us a slope, which is m. They give us a point, which is x1 and y1. All right, we're going to plug that into the equation. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So we're just going to plug these values into our equation. Now, I need to caution you. Never do we plug anything in for x and y. Those remain x and y no matter what. We're just going to plug in for m, x1, and y1. So we're going to remain, y is going to remain y. We're going to have y minus y1. y1 is 7. We pull it right here. So y1 is 7. So y minus 7 equals m, we're going to put our slope in, which is -3. And then we're going to have x minus x1, which is -1. So be careful when you're plugging in a negative value, because see what's going to happen is we're going to do change it, and we're going to actually get y minus 7 equals -3 parentheses x plus 1. And this right here is the equation of the line in point-slope form. Okay? So that is the equation of the line. And that's how you do it. All you do is plug numbers in, and you plug your x1, your y1 in, and your slope of -3, we plug to that in as well. All right, example 3. We've got the following points, and we need to write an equation of a line. When you're only given 2 points, we don't have an m. So what we have to do first is we have to find the slope between point S and point T. Now, we haven't done this in a little while, but the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So what we need to do is we need to plug in, we need to make one of these points x1, y1, and one of them x2, y2. Then we plug it into the formula. So we're going to get negative 5 minus 3. I pulled them from here, here, over x2 minus x1. That's negative 1 minus 2. So our slope in this situation, on the top we're going to have negative 8 over negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. So our slope is going to be 8/3. It's positive because both the numerator and the denominator were negative. So it's a positive 8/3. So we now have an m. And then we have our x1 and y1 from up here. So now we can write our equation in point slope form. So we have y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So we just plug in our values. So we do y minus y1, which is 3, equals 8/3 parentheses x minus 2. All right, so that's how you write an equation given only 2 points. This is only when you're not given a slope. You have to actually first find the slope, then plug in your x1, y1, and you're ready to go. All right, let's look at question B. Part B says use the equation in part A and part A and write it in slope-intercept form. Sometimes we want our equation in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to rewrite this equation from part A into part B. Okay, so it was, let's see, what was it again? It was y minus 3. Y minus 3 equals 8/3 x minus 2. So we're going to write this into slope-intercept form. In order to do that, we have to solve for y. And what we do, the first step is going to be to do distributive property. Okay, so we're going to take 8/3 and we're going to distribute it to both of these. So we're going to get y minus 3 equals 8/3 x. We're going to do 8/3 times negative 2 over 1, okay? We're multiplying fractions here. That gives us negative 16 over 3. Okay, you multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. That's the first step. The second step is to isolate y. All right, if I need to isolate y, that means this negative 3 right here has to go. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. So we have y equals 8/3 x. And then here's the hard part for some of you with the fractions. We're going to take 16 over 3 plus 3 over 1. I need to find a common denominator. Between 3 and 1, it's 3. So I'm going to multiply the bottom fraction, 3 on top, 3 on the bottom. That gives you 9 over 3. Some of you will use your calculators in this part. I'm going to show you how to do it manually. Negative 16 plus 9, okay, that's going to give us negative 5 over 3. So we have minus 5 over 3. This is now in slope-intercept form, okay? This is now in slope-intercept form. I know we had to deal with fractions, and guys, if you are having trouble with the fractions, just put them in your calculators. I just want to make sure you understand the process of how this works. You distribute, get rid of the fraction, basically. Get rid of this fraction, and then isolate the y. Those are the 2 steps. Now we're being asked to write it in standard form. This is what we learned yesterday. So to get it in standard form, we got to clear the fractions first. So 1, clear fractions. To do that, we want to multiply this whole fraction. Since both of these denominators are 3, if we multiply this whole equation by 3, that will get rid of our denominators of 3. We'll have 3y equals 8x minus 5, because when we multiply everything by 3, it cancels out the denominators, and we're left with just the 8x and the minus 5. All right, and on the left, we didn't have a denominator of 3, so we still have the 3. Now we need to take this 8x and move it to the other side. Okay. Standard form, we're going to go ahead and put the x term first. So we have negative 8x plus 3y equals negative 5. And now we have this same equation. We've written it now in point-slope form. We've written it in slope-intercept form. And now we've written it in standard form. So we will work a lot with this tomorrow. I know this last part of these notes may have been a little confusing. We'll do a couple of examples in class together just to make sure you understand it. Thank you for listening.